Hi, welcome to Right to Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I want to walk you through the IELTS academic test, task 1 of the writing, and specifically the pie charts. Okay? Now, a lot of you are thinking that the pie charts are a little bit confusing. They're the exact same as a line graph, a bar graph, a table, or anything else. They're just information presented in a certain way that you have to analyze, understand, and then summarize and report on. Okay, so we're going to walk through all the steps from planning, from looking at the pie charts, planning, writing, checking. Okay, so let's start. The first thing you need to know about pie charts. Okay, and this is very important. You are never going to be given one pie chart. Pie charts are never going to be given in isolation. They're always going to be given with something else. Now, the most common way you're going to see pie charts is in a group of 2 or more pie charts. You'll have pie chart 1, pie chart 2, and make the comparisons as needed. You might also get a pie chart and a graph, a line graph or a bar graph, or you might get a pie chart and a table. Any way you get it, you're always going to get at least 2 items to look at, because if you're given one pie chart, there's nothing really to talk about. You talk about all the different pieces of the pie and what the numbers are, and that's it, right? So you can't say much. So it's always going to be 2. And that means you're going to be comparing or contrasting or showing some sort of change, usually over time, or making some sort of relative connection, especially with the graphs and tables. A pie chart with a graph and a pie chart with a table, they're not always going to be exact same kind of information, but they're going to want you to somehow relate the 2 pieces of data. Okay, so today I'm just going to look at 2 pie charts. Okay, let's look at those. So here's your task. You're given a little bit of a prompt, what's going on. You're given the 2 pieces of information with the numbers, the legends at the bottom, and then you're asked to summarize. So a department store changed management in order to move sales in a new direction. The charts show gross sales in 5 departments in the years 2010 and 2012. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So first things first. A lot of people are going to start writing. They're going to say, okay, in 2010, these are the numbers. In 2012, these were the numbers. That's not what they're looking for, because that's not really actually doing what the task is asking for. They're asking you to summarize the information, basically not give all of it. Give me a summary of what's going on. And how are you going to do that? By selecting and reporting the main features. Now, this actual instruction, is the same for all task 1s in academic IELTS. But a lot of people don't do that. They don't take the main features. They try to include all the pieces of information that they see in the infographic, okay? Now, if all you did was give me a little introduction, and then body 1, in 2010, groceries were 10%, electronics were the highest at 37%. Okay, all you're doing is basically repeating the information, and then body paragraph 2 is 2012. That's not what they want. They want you to make a comparative. They want to see the differences. So what you need to do is you need to find your groupings. What are you going to talk about in paragraph 1? What are you going to talk about in paragraph 2? And one way to do it is 2010 and 2012. But if you do it that way, all you're doing is listing the information. You're not going to be able to make the comparison. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for something that gives me that grouping. Okay, so what can I look for? Well, I have groceries, furniture, electronics, fashion, and housewares. These are the 5 departments that in this department store. Now, what they want you to do is use a little bit of analytical skills. They want you to use some critical thinking and see what you can group together. That's how you get your summary, okay? So electronics, computers, stereos, TVs, appliances, for example, could be part of electronics, not so much part of furniture. So these things are all pretty expensive. Okay, you're talking about hundreds, even thousands of dollars. So we're going to call these big ticket items, okay, because the ticket price is big. And then you have groceries and housewares. These are small items. These are everyday items and staples. Okay, so groceries are staples. These are things you need every day. Things you, like for example, bread. Every day you're going to eat bread or milk or eggs. So these are called staple items. And housewares, these are things for around the house. You're going to use them every day. but all of these things usually cost a little bit. Fashion is probably a category by itself. Furniture, big ticket item, expensive stuff. So this is already, I understand how I'm going to group my information. I'm going to take my housewares and groceries as one group, my everyday essentials and staples, and my electronics and furniture, my big ticket items. Fashion, I'm just going to leave by itself. Now, also notice that fashion didn't change very much. It went from 28% to 23%. All the other categories had pretty significant changes, okay? So that's what I'm going to look at first. So I have basically my groupings. I've looked at some of the information. Now I want to look at details. I'm going to look at my highs, my lows, my biggest changes, because that's what we're looking here. We're looking at the change from year 2010 and year 2012. And then I'm going to think about my groupings again. Highs. In 2010, the highest percentage of revenues or sales was electronics. This was the same in 2012. In 2012, although it went down, it's still the highest in terms of sales. Very close, we have groceries and housewares, both went up to 23. Lows. In 2010, the lowest contributor was furniture and groceries, 10% each. In 2012, furniture went down to 4%. That's your lowest. The biggest change over the span of the graph, of the pie charts. Groceries more than doubled in sales from 10 to 23. Furniture went down to less than half, from 10 to 4. Electronics, although these two both doubled, okay, in terms of the biggest drop, electronics had the bigger drop, 10%. Furniture had the biggest relative drop, less than half, but electronics actually went down 10% to furniture's 6%. So again, electronics and furniture, big ticket items, groceries and housewares, everyday staple items. Fashion, not much change. I'm not going to concentrate on it too much. I will mention it because it's there. Okay, so I'm going to start with my introduction. Okay, let's look at the task again. A department store changed management in order to move sales in a new direction. The charts show gross sales in 5 departments in the years 2010 and 2012. So I'm going to paraphrase and then I'm going to give my overview statement in one paragraph. Some people like to have an introduction and then an overview statement and then body 1, body 2. Some people like to have an introduction, body 1, body 2, and whatever they call a conclusion, which is basically an overview statement, okay? The pie charts reflect the differences in revenues of 5 categories of products in a department store over the course of 3 years. So basically, I'm saying the exact same thing. So changes, sales in a new direction, they show gross sales in 1 year and gross sales in another year. So they're showing the differences in revenues from 1 year to the next. In a department store, 5 categories, okay. 5 departments, I put 5 categories. 2010, 2012, 3 years. Now, first of all, many people will write 2 years, 2010 to 2012. But remember, 2010, 2011, 2012. Don't forget that years, and especially when you're looking at graphs, are usually inclusive. So don't forget to include the 2 end years in your counting. So 3 years. Now, clearly, the company's decision to hire new leadership, which was mentioned in the task, so I'm not making it up, to alter the store's sales trajectory, it's a difficult word to say. Now, I'm not making any of this up, right? Alter, change the store's sales trajectory. This word means direction, okay? So they want, instead of going this way, electronics and big ticket items, they want to go this way, more small everyday items, has led to increased trade in everyday items and a decrease in big ticket items. Those are my 2 categories now. This is what has happened, and this is my overall statement. Now, I use the word clearly. Lots of people, they like to say, it can be clearly seen that, or it is noticed that. First of all, why use it is, or it can clearly be seen? Like, why use a passive? Why use 6 words when 1 is enough? So try to avoid wordiness. Instead of spending so many words in the introduction, use them in your body where it's more effective and more important, okay? If you're not sure how to avoid wordiness, watch my video on how to do exactly that. So there's my introduction. Let's get into my first body paragraph. In 2010, okay, so I'm starting by looking at the years as well, but I'm also going to look at my items. In 2010, the electronics and fashion departments accounted for 65% of the store's gross revenue. By 2012, this number had dropped to exactly half of all sales. Although electronics remained the highest grossing department, 27%, it nevertheless showed the greatest overall reduction at 10%. Furniture, the other big ticket item, saw sales shrink by more than half over the 3-year span, falling to 4% from 10%. So I don't have to use span again. I can use the course of 3 years or anything you want to say, but make sure you include all the information. Now, what am I doing? I'm comparing. In 2010, this is what happened. By 2012, this number had dropped. So I'm showing a change in one category or one grouping, as the case may be. So I made my grouping, electronics and fashion, because these were the biggest and they dropped. Then I concentrate on my high and high, which is electronics, highest in terms of sales both years, but also highest drop percentage. And then furniture, the other big ticket item. So as soon as I say the other, that means there are two big ticket items, furniture and electronics. I put them together and then talk about what happened to furniture, that it shrank. Okay, so there you go. There's my big ticket items and there's my big sales. I haven't even mentioned groceries, haven't mentioned housewares. Why? Because I'm going to put them in the next paragraph. Grocery items and housewares, meanwhile, so meanwhile shows a contrast, increased significantly, jumping from 10 and 15% respectively, 10 for grocery, 15 for housewares, respectively, to 23% each, because they're the same in 2012. Again, showing the change. For groceries, this is a jump of more than double the previous sales figure. Now, I don't really need to say this sentence. It's obvious from 10 to 23. It's very clear. There's a reason I put this sentence in. I'm focusing on this jump because of the next sentence. This confirms, so this being this big jump in groceries, confirms a shift by consumers to more staple goods and everyday items, as furniture and groceries each contributed to 10% of sales in 2010, with inverse changes by 2012. So in 2010, I had a small item and a big item. Okay, by 2012, the small item more than doubled up, the big item more than half down. Okay, so inverse. As one goes up, one goes down almost in the same rate. So shows the different direction. Increasing the groceries, decreasing the big ticket items, and that's my biggest change. That's the main feature that I'm going to be concentrating on. Okay, a few of the words I use to show the changes has led to increased in something and a decrease in something. So increase, decrease, contrast. In 2010 this happened, by 2012 this happened. Although this was that, nevertheless that. So although electronics remained the highest, nevertheless it was had the biggest drop. Furniture, and again, nevertheless is not for contrasting, it's for emphasis. Furniture, the other big ticket item. So I'm using this expression to group my two big ticket items. Meanwhile, showing contrast, more than double the previous figure. The IELTS graders love to see this word, double, triple, half. Okay, make sure you use them, twice as many. Each contributed something with inverse changes. Inverse, when something is going up and something is going down, they're going in separate directions but at an equal rate. That's called an inversion or inverse movement. It's a good word to use if you can remember how to use it. There is the entire report, I guess, 177 words, so perfect word count for this task. I've done everything the task asked. I've looked at all the main features. I didn't step beyond the scope of the infographic. I didn't make up any information. Everything that is in this report, I can point to in the task, okay? I'm not bringing in any outside information. I'm not using any analysis or making any conclusions beyond what I can see, okay? So it's a report. There's no opinion. I'm not saying anything that I can't point to there, okay? So that's basically all there is. Now, of course, easy for me to do, a little bit of more practice for you guys to get to, but remember, groupings, that's probably the most important part of task 1. How to put information into paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 and paraphrase the introduction, okay? I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, of course, please ask me in the YouTube comment section. I'll be happy to answer your questions. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And come again soon for more great tips on IELTS, TOEFL, writing sections. I want to help you guys get your scores. Okay? I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.